All right, you're set to
Is
go.
this better if I stand right here? Is this everything that Jack, did everybody see Jack Daniels talk? Okay, I had to redo my slide deck. Thanks, Jack.
What did you say?
He did. He basically said too many bullets, too many words, cut it out. Just it was kind of like the Apple method of feng shui of presentation.
You saw some of mine. They're thin.
Okay, cool. There you go.
You're on.
Come on.
All
All right.
All right, so for the last one for today, the last track, we have Mike Perez here. Mike and I have been working together for a short period of time, working with PaulDotCom's Security Weekly. There's a little bit of trick. Anybody ever seen the podcast? There might be a little bit of drinking involved sometimes.
Water.
It's O'Doul's usually kinds of things, but one of the things that I have found in various industries, because I have gone through multiple career changes and things like that, when you try to start into a new field, a lot of times the people that have been there a while kind of look at you and want to make sure that you earn your stripes before they want to give you any kind of respect whatsoever. One of the things that I'm noticing about the information security field is so many people want to be helpful to people just starting out. And I was extremely surprised when I started with Paul that most of his team, all of his team, is so welcoming and so wants to help new people. And one of the people that was the most welcoming in the whole group was Mike Perez. So
Thanks.
here he is.
Thanks, bud. I just said one beer. I would give you not like 3 or 4 beers. So thanks for that.
He's a jerk.
So this talk is for anyone who's new to InfoSec. So hopefully people who are either newish or trying to figure out how they can contribute a little bit more to either their own cause or PaulDotCom or X, Y, or Z that they'd like to get into. So just to give you a little bit of background about me, again, Mike Perez. I'm the executive producer of PaulDotCom Security Weekly, so that's the every Thursday show. I'm also recently the comptroller for Black Hills Information Security, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that means. But a little while ago, back in September, Ben Jackson, who actually just spoke right now, regarded or remarked on Paul's tweet, which was that he was going to Graceland Chapel in Las Vegas to get married, and Ben actually asked, is it to your wife or to Larry Pesci? And he wasn't too far off the mark, because he was actually getting married to John Strand. No, I'm just kidding.
That's not even my wife.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, if I had better photoshopping skills, that woman would not be between John and Paul. But this is what the unholy marriage of Black Hills Information Security and PaulDotCom would look like. No, but in all seriousness, Paul also helps out with the consulting arm of Black Hills Information Security, so they kind of get into a partnership. Again, first off, I am not Carlos Perez, nor am I intern Darren. I'm intern Mike. I wish I was halfway near as good as Carlos is and could actually spell PowerShell, but I can't. I also don't look this good with Jack Daniels sock puppets on my shoulders as intern Darren does. I don't think anybody does. So I was a civil engineer. I was working on drainage layout and sewer projects. So what that basically means is you take a CVS template and you times it 100. So that's what I was pretty much doing every day, was working on new CVSs, new targets, new stop and shops, and I was really getting sick of it. I mean, there's only so many of those you need in the world. I couldn't believe that we kept building them and then tearing them down and rebuilding them. Anyways, so it felt like I was pretty much working underground the whole time. This is not a picture of the actual sewer that I fell into, but around this time, when I was trying to figure out that maybe I didn't want to be a civil engineer, I actually fell about waist deep into a sewer that looked a lot like this, and I figured out maybe I don't want to be swimming in feces for the rest of my career. Not that I don't do that now.
It's a lot like InfoSec.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out it is a lot like InfoSec, but at the time it looked, grass is greener. I did have some free time, so it was one of those things where I was just searching around, I'm working this 40-hour job. What is it that I can do that fits my interests? A little bit, this is going to get a little preachy in certain spots. I don't own a TV, so that probably gives you a little bit of idea of the type of person that I am. I think TV's, I think cable basically is a big ripoff. I don't understand how anybody can pay for ads. It kind of drives me crazy. I needed an outlet for my paranoia. So I'm a paranoid person by nature. If there's any kind of conspiracy theory, if somebody says that the US government has, instead of spying on its own citizens, hires out Great Britain or Canada or Mexico to do it for us, and we do it, in a reciprocal fashion, I'll believe that. My tinfoil hat is as big as you can imagine. Basically throw out any conspiracy theory and I'll believe it. And this probably says a lot more about me than I'm comfortable with, but I don't even own a microwave. That's how paranoid I am. So that gives you an idea of the level of paranoia. Like usually I'll tell folks I don't own a TV and they're like, yeah, right on, give it to the cable companies. And then I'm like, I don't even own a microwave. And they're like, all right, you're a little weird. We'll take 2 steps back. But a little weird. So another reason why I wanted to become a little bit more informed about what was going on was, there's just basics that everybody needs to know. I didn't even know about SSH, how to encrypt email. I kept hearing all these terms about how unsafe the internet was, and it's really frustrating when you're part of basically you're thrust kind of into new technology and into being used every day in the workforce. You just don't have a basic idea of how open this system is, how it should be secured, what's happening with your information. And I was trying to figure out, again, going back to that tinfoil hat, how bad are things, Every time you go to one of these kind of shady conspiracy theorist site, you're trying to figure out, is any of this stuff true? People are saying that you're being spied on 24/7, all your metadata is being taken by the NSA, and we all know that that's not true, right? So basically what it boils down to is I needed to learn the basics. Patrick is actually going to talk a little bit about this, so this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you can work your way through it, and he kind of guides us through that in the next talk. But I have a lot of interests, one of them being beer, and I started to hear about a podcast that was in the area where they liked beer and they also liked talking about security. And, I'm trying to have this kind of unholy marriage between civil engineering and InfoSec, and still trying to search for it. I was kind of decent with computers, or at least compared to this guy. This is probably the biggest push that I had into information security was that I could fix the printer in the office. I literally had a boss who had me retype his emails. Like he would dictate it, and I would type it. This is like in, late 90s kind of thing. It was just basically, civil engineering is not known for being at the edge of information technology.
Was that Paul? Made you?
This is actually Jack before he grew the beard. And I knew I wanted to be a cyber warrior. I mean, who doesn't want to be like John Strand standing, G.I. Joe, Commando? I mean, everybody, right? So, there's kind of two schools of thought, going back to that paranoia that I talked to you about. It's kind of interesting to me being involved with PaulDotCom because you definitely hear some of the side conversations. And one of the conversations that you hear is that information should not be shared. People should be lead, and everybody else are sheep. And that kind of bothers me, is because we're all part of this new technology. We're part of this new generation. Now it's really hard, to sign up for an account where there's not some kind of web form that you have to fill out. And I hate being that person that's filling out that form and trying to figure out, is this secure? I don't know how people go through life, basically in this world of Amazon, where if they want to buy something cheaply, they could either not submit their credit card details, or they could drive to 50 stores and try to find the best bargain. Which one is more responsible with your time, But I didn't want to be that person that blindly entered my information into forms and just had no idea, is it safe? So some of the lessons learned, and again, I'm going to kind of apologize, kind of not apologize, but I'm a dad, so I give a lot of free advice to my kids, so this is some free advice. Get a little preachy. And probably the biggest thing is that community matters. That's one of the things that I've found out, one of the reasons why I joined Paul.com. And you have to find your community. So here's just some local resources like BC 401, join your local InfraGuard. If there's any hack lab in the area, we also have one here in Providence. SANS is probably a huge resource. They have a lot of actually free resources. You just go to sans.org. They have papers that are put up. They have free webinars. Paul and John do a lot of free webinars with a lot of useful info. One big tip that really helped me along in terms of trying to get my career off the ground was I mentioned SANS to folks, and it's always surprising to me that more people don't know about this program. But you know, SANS has a reputation for being a little pricey for their classes. And I always mention to folks like Rob, they have a facilitator program. All you have to do is go to sans.org, type in facilitator in their search field, and for $900, you have to work for it during your conference, but you have to put on a conference, you attend the full course, you get 4 months access online to that same course that you took. You get 2 practice exams, a certification attempt, and if there is one, an MP3 version of the class. And all of that's for a little under $1,000 versus the full price of the course. And it seems like every time I explain that to somebody, it's new news, but it's right on their website. There's no digging around for it. Just type in facilitator and it comes up. You'll have a lot better luck at someplace like Las Vegas where they're running 45, 50, 60 tracks. They're going to need a lot more facilitators, a lot more volunteers to help put on a big conference like that. I'd encourage everybody to just go to sans.org. That's a really great resource. Also, Joe McRae's here at the conference. He runs Security Rookies. He's actually looking for interns. So if people are looking for an opportunity, go hit up Joe or go to the website. He puts out challenges for folks, help him with his pen test, help him run his website, doing different things, and so that's also a good resource. So basically, what you want to do is leverage that community to work for you and for you to work for them. It's a good way to bounce ideas, get inspiration, and also get help in your career. The other lesson that I learned is that trust matters, and to kind of do what you say, but also say what you do. And the reason why I put that NDA notwithstanding and respect your employer in there is because we have this thing called the PaulDotCom forums. So people will write in our mailing list and they'll basically say, my boss sucks, I hate where I work, no one knows how to secure any of the computers, everything's wide open, I just want to go in there and just run the Nmap against everything and exploit a system and show everybody how bad it is. And that's not something you want to do. It's not going to earn you respect, it's actually going to get you fired. And I always try to catch those emails when they come in and just, kind of gently remind folks, trust matters. Talk to your boss, tell them about what you want to do, be open about it, make sure that they have, your buy-in, you have their buy-in and that you're working with them. Everybody sometimes needs to learn a hard lesson, but just make it as gentle as possible. And again, disclose responsibly, and that comes from the other side of the folks who maybe are trying to break into the field and they'll mail something into the mailing list at Paul.com that says something like, I have some cool 0-day and it's against certain company and they don't know about it and I want to come on the show and tell you guys about it first. And I try to catch those as well and just say, you might want to do a little bit responsible disclosure because the last thing that we would want to do is to get ourselves in trouble and you in trouble from that company that's like, talk to our lawyers kind of thing. So it's basically don't run a scanner against anyone's website without permission. Get that permission up front. Another lesson learned is that follow through is 90% of any job. And so I started out as an intern. Paul gave me some tasks. I actually completed those tasks, which is it should be common sense, and a lot of folks think that that's the way things should be, but unfortunately, there's been people who just, they volunteer to do stuff, and you never hear from them again. Give them the task and they don't show up. And I put in this as a specific bullet point, but I'm executive producer pretty much only because I show up, and I actually keep showing up, So, just take that lesson to heart. So, Carlos Perez was talking about this. Anybody here listen to the Spanish version of PaulDotCom Security Weekly? It's Paul Asadorian, yes?
Si, senor.
But, Carlos Perez does his, it's not a Spanish version of the podcast, it's actually kind of his own independent podcast. But anyways, he had Emilio Escobar on the very last episode, and he spent a good 15 minutes talking about, as a Metasploit developer, they have people who jump on the list, they volunteer for a certain project, they volunteer to help Carlos improve some code. They help for like 2 weeks, never hears from them again. Maybe they contribute some code that's like, they're actually pretty good. Carlos is like, man, they've been contributing over 3 months. I've got a few emails from them. The project is finished. Let's work on another project. Never hears from them again. So you kind of need to be respectful with other people's time. Folks are busy. Don't ask for help and then run away. And again, it's that follow through. And I can probably summarize that by saying relationships matter. And I really like to emphasize this with folks. Is a lot of people think, oh, you're executive producer with PaulDotCom, you must get to know a lot of people. But I try to turn that around, and it's the people who know you and how they perceive you. So if you show up all the time, if you actually do what you need to do, and just follow through on tasks, you'll get more tasks, you'll get more work, but at the same time too, people will start to recognize you as the go-to person. And so it's not really the fact that I know Paul, although that helps for some things like getting free beer, but at the same time too, it's that other people know me, and that the fact that I do show up and I try to do a good job. Patrick is going to talk about this, but I don't understand how anybody can be in information security who's not on Twitter. Now notice that I did not say Facebook, Twitter. Twitter is pretty much the go-to for new research. If you want drama, there's tons of drama on Twitter between information security professionals, and we kind of learned that at PaulDotCom the hard way sometimes. But you got to be on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter and you hate it's anonymous first of all, but secondly, if you feel like there's any way that somebody can trace it back to you, just create a fake account and follow some folks. Come up with a list. A nice curated list. Jeremiah Grossman's a good one. He has a good curated list. Tim Tomes, who works at Black Hills Information Security, also has a really good list. So if you follow just kind of those two groups, you'll cut out that signal to noise ratio, and you'll end up having a pretty good lesson in InfoSec. Our IRC is a good source. The SANS forums, if you guys end up taking my advice, and doing one of the facilitatorships and actually getting a cert, you can join their forums, and people post interesting questions. The most fascinating questions that I find are the ones that are on the forensics list, because people are going in-depth into problems. People are asking all sorts of legal questions. That's a really good resource. And then don't forget, if you happen to work at a firm and you're, let's say, a sysadmin, and you're not sure how to break into information security, go to some of those forums that are, on Checkpoint, on Cisco, the free PFSense, so you don't have to buy Checkpoint's, 10 grand firewall to get on their forums. Join the PFSense mailing list and just start shooting out questions and getting to know people, establish a community. Having said all that about social media and getting your name out there, probably the biggest thing to remember is be careful with what you post. Be careful
Wow,
with
you reach deep in the archives for those.
be careful what gets out on the interweb, because it will either come back to haunt you or stay on the internet forever and come back to haunt your kids. So enough on that. The other big lesson,
Wait until my next presentation, Mike.
the other big lesson, and I find this a little hard myself to take my own advice, but everyone tells you, Jeremiah Grossman is the last person who remarked on this, is try to find one area of InfoSec. It's just too big. You just can't learn it all. I mean, I'm grateful to be involved with PaulDotCom, because we get, forensics, we get social engineering, we get exploits, we get, AV bypass, we get the whole thing. And I get to catch little glimpses of genius, and it's hard to filter all that through. And it's just way too much volume of information. You kind of need to just narrow down and focus on one particular aspect of information security and really dig in as much as you can. And I think if you do that, you know, you develop some expertise, develop a good reputation for it. So that, again, I'm still trying to struggle with this myself. Still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. A lesson that I learned just talking to folks, not to name any names, but you know, we have some big time folks who come on the podcast, and they're still people. You know what I mean? They still have a bad day. They have weeks where they don't answer their email. You know, just remind yourself that if you're trying to help someone out, they're busy. You know, be respectful of their time. They get into bad moods too. I mean, I myself, you know, am at a conference and someone will walk up to me and they'll present me with an idea, or I really want to get on the show, and I'm just kind of frantic, and it's, you know, I end up feeling bad later because I felt like, oh man, I should have been nicer to that person. That was me a little while ago, trying to break into the field, trying to get people to give me advice. So, you know, the bigger that they are, the busier that they are, so just keep working at it. Also, these same lead people, they make their own mistakes, but I think that it's helpful for them to get your input too, because there can kind of be an echo chamber, especially in things like Twitter and with some of the communities, where everybody has a certain mindset. You know, it's Paul himself the other day, he exclaimed on the show, anybody who says AV is dead is an idiot. And Dave Kennedy happened to say 3 seconds earlier, AV bypass is dead, but they ended up having a good discussion and kind of working it out.
Yeah, not one of my most shining moments.
Yes. But, you know, experts are experts at some things, and they're not experts at everything. So that's another thing to remember is, you know, somebody who's a forensics expert may not know about social engineering, you know what I mean? So one of the ways that you can help them is by giving them your expertise in an area that they might need. So that's one lesson that I kind of learned on that. But definitely use that inspiration so that way they can help you keep from going home, turning on the television, you know, just kind of zoning out. Use them as inspiration as much as possible. This last point is probably a big one, is I meet a lot of people, and it's hard for them to take this to heart, but you kind of have to sacrifice your own ego. Let other people shine when they need to shine. Give them credit when they, you know, have done a great job. You yourself should be willing to do any grunt work, you know, that's necessary, obviously within reason. I will not babysit your son tomorrow, Paul, sorry. I'm a little bit busy. But you have to realize that you may not be somebody like Carlos Perez or intern Darren or Patrick Laverty, but you kind of have to know when to sit back, be quiet, let other people have their turn. I'm learning this a little bit at Black Hills, because I find out all the time that when you have a client who comes in and they're telling you their problems, or when they're telling you their issues, or when they're telling you the goal that they want solved, is to really just shut up and just listen to them. Try to internalize what people are trying to get across. You know, try not to cut them off. Ask questions, you know, when is needed, and kind of direct them if you want to a certain way, but really it's your job to help them, you know. And same thing if you're trying to break into InfoSec. Make sure that you let other people shine and say what they need to say. And I'm going to take my last bit of advice now, and